everybody. Welcome to Pandemic Punditry. For today's session with Hakeem Jimo, who's joining us from Lagos, Nigeria, for this edition of Putting the Planet on a Pandemic Diet. Really happy to and thrilled to talk to Hakeem from Nigeria today. He's got a really interesting story, and we're really looking forward to learning a little bit more about his company, VeggieVictory, and his journey in developing Nigeria's first vegan food company. So welcome to Pandemic Punditry, Hakeem.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here. Thanks, Lavi and Karti. Cool to be here.
You're welcome. So I know that you've had a sort of an interesting background. You were in Germany for a while. You were born in Germany and now moved to being in Nigeria for the last 20 years, and you studied in Germany. How did you become from a journalist to a sort of a vegan food crusader in Africa?
Yeah, so I don't look exactly like the typical German, so it has to be said. Yeah, but actually it's true. Yeah, so I have a mixed background: mother German, father Nigerian. I was born in Germany, grew up there, so that's my language actually. Okay. And then when I had to pick a job, I got into journalism. I studied journalism and political science in Hamburg, northern Germany, and so there was opportunities in Africa. I always felt Africa is underserved. There's lots of cool stories, and at that time it was. I felt like the media is not even reporting enough of it, or the cool side. So that's how I moved to West Africa, to actually Benin Republic, which is neighboring to Nigeria. It's French speaking, in 2000. That's 20 years ago now.
So since you've been, Hakeem, are you still there?
Yeah.
So since you've been back, so what prompted you to sort of start this? I think VeggieVictory has a restaurant. Did the restaurant sort of spark your interest in actually getting into manufacturing?
Well, the background is, so while I was still in Germany in university, I then became a vegetarian. I grew up on the countryside, so there was nothing like vegetarian in the 90s. So that's how it started, and that's now 26 years ago. So when I came to Africa, I was a vegetarian, and there were not many options, like going to restaurants. Vegetarian things, I can talk more about that, was not a term that was very known, and so I was 19 years a vegetarian. And then the last 7 years now vegan. So that's so it was a long time vegetarian. I didn't even know about veganism. Veganism is like 10 years ago. Nobody was talking about it in anywhere basically. And so having that in me, and of course I always knew there are not many options. You can eat a lot of fruits and stuff like that. Plantain and yam. But the term vegetarian or vegetarian meals, vegan meals was not known. So if you go to a restaurant, then the standard was more like there has to be meat. And then I got like everywhere I can't really eat stuff, or they will just give me some carrots and some green peas. So the idea came, hey, I've spent money in Lebanese restaurants because there I can eat at least hummus and some Indian restaurant. Let's save the money. Let's start a vegan restaurant. At least I can have a vegan burger and all the stuff that you miss, kind of,
Hakeem, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think in one of your interviews, you'd said that the traditional dishes didn't used to be meat-based, that once meat became more available, people started putting meat into everything in Nigeria.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a bit tricky. So it's very similar. I had a conversation last week with somebody in India, and they said there was a survey. And we all know India is like, you have most of the vegetarians, but they asked people, and 70% said they are eating meat. But when they were breaking it down into what do they eat in a week, like 3 meals a day, so 21 meals, 20 meals out of the 21 were actually vegetarian, but they were still saying they're eating meat. So it's similar here in Africa, that traditionally our food is actually plant-based. You don't need to make a fuss about it. You know, you eat your beans, you eat your plantain. There was never much meat in it. If you speak to the elderly people, especially in the villages, they are telling you, oh, we ate meat maybe like 3 times in a year, like for Christmas or for a wedding. And the rest was really more plant-based. Okay, some fish in it, but nothing like chicken and beef like today for almost every meal. So I would say traditionally plant-based meals are very common, but as we are learning more about the West and different lifestyles and the aspirational things, so the meat thing became very dominant now. And now today it's like, if there's no meat on your plate, it's like an empty plate, people say, you know? So it's a bit like twisted. So technically in Africa, we eat not so much meat compared to the West, you know? It's always important to remember that. I got one statistics, like in Southern Africa, basically the same like here, they eat 5 kilograms of chicken per year against 120 kilograms the American standard diet, you know? So it's like, it's not that we are eating lots of meat, you know, but I think that's the next topic, like what's gonna happen now when we are doubling our population and all of that.
So yeah, I think, so this is sort of an interesting theme. I think, I mean, another interesting statistic that I came across that is in the US, a Gallup poll recently pointed out that white Americans are eating 10% less meat now, but African Americans are eating 31% less meat. In fact, there are more African Americans calling themselves vegan, double the amount than non. So, I mean, it seems that cultural ethos that you have from, the African continent, which is where there was a heavy preponderance of sort of plants and beans and roots in the diet, that seemed to be the more traditional diet. I mean, meat was sort of a colonial introduction, it seems, from what I've read. I mean, is that your understanding as well, Hakeem? I mean, that...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the African American culture that deep. I mean, I've been there a lot, and I mean, you have your cornbread, your soul food. There is meat, you know.
Right.
But I think, yeah, I mean, of course, we have the same heritage, you know, and right. It was more I would guess, I'm not an expert historical, but you know, how you raise animals. You know, there's a difference between if you have a cow in your backyard or if you have a factory somewhere around there, you know. I mean, and I think in Africa, it's very normal that food, you still know where the food is coming from. We don't have that industrialized food system, not yet. It's about to come. But if you are more traditionally, I think India is also similar, and I like to know even more about that. It's like, I hear stories like, yeah, every Indian family used to have a cow in the backyard, and then they were making the ghee from that. I mean, I would still not eat it or drink it, but that's a different kind of animal protein consumption than if you have farm factories, you know?
Correct.
Sorry, I had a question because I think in one of the articles, Hakeem, you'd highlighted that one of the reasons why people in Nigeria are moving towards veganism and vegetarianism is because of the internal conflict between the herders due to the drought.
Okay, you mean that that is pushing the vegan topic, or
is that increasing vegetarian and vegan consumption in Nigeria?
Yeah, I wish, but it's not yet there, you know. You know, you probably got the only vegan company in Nigeria so far, you know, and one would have expected in a country of 200 million people that there's more, but it's not, you know. And I was also maybe naive and say, you know, there's a direct connection for me between the cattle rearing, you know, and the consumption of meat. But people don't see it that way, you know. So we have to convince people in a different way. And the message that really sticks is, if you want to convert people, is health, you know. If you come to them with, oh, the environment or animal rights, it's very few people that get that, you know. It's the health message. So when I thought, hey, let me go to those communities affected by the cattle man, you know. The problem is that that's, again, the traditional way of raising animals. We don't have farm factories, cattle ranches. They were moving across the land like they did for thousands of years. But now, as land is becoming scarce and you have the crop farmers, now obviously they clash at some point, you know. So my idea was also, let's tell the people in the South, actually, that, hey, reduce your meat consumption and you will see less cattle coming to your place. But it's too complicated. That message didn't work. So I think countries, again, like India and Nigeria, Africa, we need to really see what message works, you know, to convince people. Because it's not, I don't think it's the same works like in the Western world. You know, in the Western world, the ethical aspect is very strong, you know, because they have farm factories. We don't have that here. We have chicken factories now, but not beef stuff. So we have to work differently in the global South, you know.
So, so if you, I mean, you know, so how, you know, you started the restaurant first, and I mean, I assume that you now have a larger clientele than when you first started the restaurant. Is it a growing business? I mean, are more and more people coming to the restaurant and are surprised when they eat your vegan meat, for example? Are they surprised that it's actually plant-based?
Yeah. So. Yeah, you know, I was mentioning the story how we got to open the restaurant, because I just said, let's save the money and do our own stuff. At least we know what we're eating, you know, not that you are sitting down somewhere and halfway down the meal you find a bone in it, you know. It's these horrible stories, you know, and they would tell you there's no meat in it, you know. So we didn't really care when we started the restaurant, and people were saying, a vegan restaurant in Nigeria, how will that work? You know, I said, well, you know what? I don't care. You know, at least even if I'm the only customer, it's fine. You know, and I knew similar stories from Germany. Germany now they are saying they're vegan, but that's also only in the well, I would always say in the hipster neighborhoods. You know, if you go to the countryside, people are still eating a lot of meat. So 7 years ago, when we opened the vegan restaurant, that was way not mainstream. And even in the Western world, it was not mainstream, veganism. Right. You know? But people started coming, and I always explain that 9 out of 10 of our customers up to today are normal meat eaters, you know? However, they want to start reducing meat, because what is interesting is there is a huge awareness among Nigerians, and I would say Africans, that health is an issue, you know? They know health is an issue. And there is an uneasy feeling about meat. They love meat. Absolutely, it's an aspirational thing, and oh, now I have arrived. Same thing in like India, China. The meat consumption is rising as people are getting more money. But there was an kind of uneasy feeling, and how we always realize it is like people are saying, oh yes, I stopped eating red meat because my doctor said this, and my uncle had blood pressure, and my mother has diabetes. So all these non-communicable diseases. And I only eat white meat, and I now switch to fish. So it's the typical story. And we have people in the restaurant that are surprised that they are arguing with us. No, this is meat, you know, don't tell me, what kind of meat is it, you know? And so they're saying, is it chicken, is it gizzard, or what they call it, you know? So we, with our restaurant, it was the perfect research engine, you know. we could test what meat really works for the Nigerian taste, because we don't need steaks here. We don't eat steaks like a T-bone steak. It will be difficult to replicate. We don't have so much sophisticated fish or something, you know. So it's like a stew. That's the normal Nigerian meal. There's a stew, and in that stew you can have all kinds of meat. You have goat swimming next to the pig, next to the beef, you know, everything in one pot, you know, and everything in chunks. And so we thought, okay, what works? Tofu doesn't work. The texture is not right. So we came up with our product, which is much chewier, and people are fine with it. They don't need a steak or something, you know. They just want something. It's a bit like playing with your mind, you know. But if that is what plays the trick, so it's fine with me, you know.
So the chunks that you have, what is the ingredient? Is it a soy-based product? Is it some other grain that you use?
Yeah, it's a blend of soy and wheat, so to make it more chewier. Okay. And I think that's just the first step. You know, now there's globally, you see a huge innovation in plant-based meat, even cultivated meat or clean meat. You know, I don't know how that will work in Africa, but I think people are very open-minded. The only thing they want is they want to see something that looks a bit like meat on top of their rice, you know? So I think actually we have probably huge perspectives here, you know, in Africa, because the Western taste is very sophisticated. You know, they want, again, they want a steak, they want this, they want that, you know. Here we are not so fussed about meat, you know, as long as there's something that looks like it, you know, it's fine. So we probably have chances to even increase it much more. And then it's the price point, you know. Meat is not subsidized here. So it is, and meat is very resource intense. So it eventually it will cost money. So like this herdsman, what Kati was mentioning, they were technically eating for free. But if you start ranching now, that means you're feeding a cow. You know, if you feed a cow, you know what it takes, you know. So I think probably we have that's my prediction. The global south is probably has more perspective chances to really get many more in the population, you know.
Hakeem, you're also working on you know, products for supermarkets, for retail, right?
So we have, it's already in the market. We have a retail in the market, yeah. So people can buy it. Yeah, that's the product I was mentioning. It's called Veggie Chunks, and it's a dried product. So it's which is interesting here. We don't have a cold chain. You know, it's not like in the Western world where every supermarket has a fridge section. Hardly any retail store has that. So how do you get your products to far away distances and open markets, you know? But we are still at the beginning. What we wanted to first achieve is to get the taste right, because it's the consumer that decides. You can't stuff it down people's throat, you know? It really needs to taste. And so we are glad that we got that one right without millions of dollars of research funds and some bleeding burgers and stuff. No, it's all too complicated, you know. You need to have something that works in the stew.
So is the soybean and the wheat, are these indigenously sourced? I mean, they are manufactured. I'm sorry, they're grown in Africa. Pardon if my ignorance there. But
yeah,
is the
soybeans
soybean available?
are grown here, even some wheat, but it's not yet to that extent. And wheat is a global commodity. We're looking into that, to backward integration, to grow it ourselves. And definitely also, we already have some more products in the pipeline to if as possible, source 100% locally, you know, but it's also tricky, you know. There's a reason why this country's markets are not yet that sophisticated, the supply chain, you know. Pea protein is interesting, but we can't really do that. Basically, you need to start a farm, you know, but we can only do as much as a young company, you know. But definitely, we have some ideas already of things like you can find more. You can find more locally, and you know, that's the beauty about plant-based. It's like so many ingredients can suddenly work, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's today people are talking about bambara nut, and tomorrow you find I mean, it's endless, you know. And I think as the consumer taste also adapts, you know, they are also open to many more varieties. You know, right now we are at a step of get people that are used to some sort of meat. You know, a lot of is imported, is not even produced here. Half of the meat is imported anyway in Nigeria, you know. To now slowly get them to, yeah, I guess you have the same. Like first they think, oh, if I become a vegetarian or vegan, what should I eat? You know, and then suddenly you see a whole new world is opening up. You know, you suddenly eat vegetables you never heard of. You know, and it tastes amazing. You know, so little steps. We have to carry people along, help them. You know, make the first step, and then things will move itself. I'm very sure.
So you're confident at some point that, you know, indigenously grown African grains and pulses and all that could be potentially used as opposed to imported ingredients. I mean, this is an ongoing thing. Of course, supply chain constraints notwithstanding, that this would be the future trend for what you're doing.
Absolutely. You know, without being too overconfident, but Africa is the continent of food. You know, it's only that like so many other things, completely neglected. You know, like I spoke to somebody in Southeast Asia, and he was saying moringa. Everybody is going crazy about moringa. Right. Moringa is growing in everybody's compound here, and they hack it down. You know, they don't. And in other parts of the world, it's like they're selling it at $10 for 2 ounces. You know. And there's so much more, and I think that is where we have to get to, that we're not just eating rice and chicken, but actually like, yeah, so many moringa, and that moringa alone, it has the leaves, it has the blooming thing, and the
flowers.
So,
yeah.
So I think everywhere, you know, superfoods are everywhere. You know, in Germany they have superfoods. You know, you don't need to bring gory berries from the Himalaya to Germany. They have their own berries. You know, so I think that is the beauty, that wherever humans are, they have amazing food. Yeah, and I think I hear already people bringing in more, like in the diaspora, the African diaspora, bringing their food to London, and melon seeds. You know, we have amazing foods, but we need the chefs that work with it. We need more products. And for the plant-based movement, we definitely need products that work for our taste, you know?
Yeah. So interestingly, we Karthik and I both talked to Christoph Langenwaller, from What If Foods, by the way, from Singapore. And he sources his ingredients from Africa, where he works closely with farmers in moringa, bambara, nuts, and other things. So maybe the two of you, I will introduce you on LinkedIn together. It'd be a great source of, and he does a lot of his organization, Nutritional Paradox, works closely with global sort of supply chains in trying to understand, because he had a very interesting point that, you know, 60% of our calories come from 3 ingredients, rice, corn, and wheat. Right, and there's thousands and thousands of potential sources of food that we don't, you know, we've neglected. I mean, our ancestors used to have it, but we've forgotten about them, and we've sort of gone on this whole mono route. And his vision of Africa was, it was a, you know, cornucopia of sort of, you know, all kinds of interesting material that could be used, and he was using that to supply noodles and various things to the Southeast Asian market. So it's interesting.
Or jackfruit. Karthi is from Sri Lanka.
Jackfruit
is like, it's huge.
It grows in every backyard, like moringa. Actually, the moringa grows in every backyard too.
Yeah, and now people are finding jackfruits, and they make, you can, with food tech, that's amazing. You can, and that's actually my wife Bola that really makes all this thing to, that finds the right recipe, jackfruit. And then I was Googling jackfruit, and then in Africa, it's actually breadfruit, It looks a bit
Actually,
different.
we have two different things. We have jackfruit and breadfruit, two different things.
Two different trees completely.
Yeah, two different trees.
Yeah.
So I need the jackfruit then, or I need
I'm
the jackfruit
happy to
plantation.
send you a bunch of recipes, Hakeem. I'm happy to send you a bunch of recipes.
No, I need the raw material, that's the thing, But I mean, that's a perfect example. There's so much, and then suddenly you can make something that meat, if you need meat, after a while, you probably realize, hey, I'm fine with anything. I actually like it. I like for me, it's whether you call it meat or what, it's the playing with different textures, that is what,
right. No, I think you said
I like a hot dog, but if the sausage is a soy dog or something, but I like the kind of, maybe I'm a junk vegan,
No, but you made a good point earlier, which is, it has to be delicious. So I think at some point the ingredients sort of take a back seat, right? So if you made it out of some kind of, sustainable African ingredient, but it still tasted like a meat product, I don't think your customers would care very much. Giving back to sort of, so are you, how do you sort of raise funds? Is that a challenge for you to grow in order to find sort of sources of funding for plant-based companies in general in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super niche, Africa is a niche in terms of global funding. Food business is another niche. You will see that most of the funding that goes into Africa is for extractive businesses like oil and whatever. That's probably another 90%. And then another 8% is fintech, So food is, in Africa, it's the niche of the niche. And now plant-based is probably, you can't make a worse decision than that. But we are mission driven, because I believe that we need to we need to rethink our food systems. We can't, the solutions that worked for the last 300 years, it won't work for the next 100 years. I'm very sure, So funding is obviously a challenge. But we see, I mean, that's for us. I mean, the good thing is you don't have many competitors, it's not like you're the 75th fintech company, but we actually got some funding now. So we really see interest. And for me, it's like people need to eat, so if you have a smart idea, why not, and we can't always have that 3 ingredients you mentioned, we can't eat all instant noodles, so I'm convinced that it will work, and I'm sure that if we prove it, I mean, it's also to see the big companies, they are trailblazing the way, Beyond Meat. They brought an attention to the plant-based industry that was not unseen 10 years ago. If you come up with a plant-based business to an investor, you will also shake his head, or her head. Mm-hmm. But I think we are much further now, and now it's Africa, and you can't ignore this continent. No way,
Great. I mean, it's really reassuring to hear. Karthika?
Yeah, actually, speaking of Africa and the continent, it's interesting because you said, Hakeem, that we can't continue to source stuff and, eat food the same way. I think there was a UN statistic that said just in Nigeria alone, the population is going to double by 2050, right? From 200 million to 400 million. So
yeah. We are trying to catch up with India. In 2100 we have 1 billion. Probably you have 2 billion by then, but
yeah, we got a little bit of a head start.
But my question is part of your strategy to try and see how you can make this whole thing sustainable to feed that population that's going to be there in Nigeria?
Yeah, somebody said something smart. I never realized it. It's this thing again that in Africa we actually don't eat much animal protein. So what you have to be aware is that humans, we need protein, and I know even meat eaters get most of their protein from plants, but they are ignorant about it probably. But in Africa, we have to find a solution to this severe protein deficiency. People do not eat enough protein, even compared to other developing countries. We are way behind, So the question is not how to reduce meat, but actually how to prevent meat. I think it's still similar to, I'll tell people, all these happy vegans in London and Berlin and in Portland, it's great that 5% more people in Portland are vegan now, but if 0.1% of Indians are eating more meat, then forget about your goals of reducing meat. We are actually increasing meat consumption globally. So if we don't fix it in countries like India, China, and Nigeria, because we're going to have 400 million in 20 years, then it's going to be a huge problem. And that farm factories that are producing meat abroad, they're not closing down. They will start producing for a different market, So it's like when they had to close down the tobacco factories, they just shipped it down to these places here, So we need to, the thing is, if Africa eventually gets more richer and that you see that there's a middle class growing, people are having more money. They will trade it into meat. So we need to prevent that, and maybe there's something like this leapfrogging that we always talk about in emerging countries, that we don't need landlines. We went straight to mobile phones. So I hope in Africa, we don't start eating meat, because two generations ago, they were not eating meat, So we are jumping straight into plant-based meat.
There was an interesting question asked by one of our attendees. So can you reach out to schools and help children understand the importance of traditional diets? That could be a way to introduce plant-based diets. And I think that's an interesting point. So maybe it's the next generation of Africans that sort of get educated. I mean, we've seen the similar trend in the US with many millennials. I think 18 to 34 age group, 25% of them are identifying themselves as vegetarian or vegan in the US, according to a Newsweek poll. So I think maybe the hope is with the younger Nigerians, maybe. And so the question, I think, is a valid one, which is, are you planning on sort of introducing this to schools and things like that?
Yeah, we have a school outreach program supported by ProVeg. So we are going into primary and secondary schools, and I always love to actually work there. I believe we humans are very passionate. You can see it. Children don't like to kill animals, but they are being taught something else later on. That has cultural reasons, whatever. But if we can get them there, I mean, it's always I've not met one child that will say, no, but I want to eat that chicken. But they don't have options. The parents don't know better. So with this school outreach, we are at least trying to plant that seed, literally, and then hope that it's a distribution thing, availability. People need to eat, and we are far away that you can get your plant-based meat at every corner. I hope we get there. That's the vision, but we are not yet there. And but you need to win the young people, and even younger than the millennials, who are also now 30. And sometimes I'm wondering. I don't know. There is probably more awareness, but I don't think that the millennials in Africa are that are following their peer group in the Western world. I wish. But yeah, again, we need to tweak our messages here.
Yeah, actually, I had a question. Interestingly, we obviously got introduced to you through Ryan Bettencourt. What's the story there? How did you get introduced to Ryan?
Oh yeah, so internet. I was on a platform Beyond Impact. It's European based, and I met I met Anand from, he's obviously Indian heritage, but based in London, and vegan enthusiast, and he has his own platform, and he interviewed Ryan, and then, and Ryan saw that interview with me, and they thought this is where the next market is, and Ryan is already has investments in, and that's what I really liked, in emerging countries, in Philippines, Chile, so not just you know, Portland, Oregon, but really where it's happening, you know. And we talked, and I immediately felt like we have a vision here, you know. This is where we have to make the difference, and yeah, that's how it started. And I think it's super smart to invest in these markets, because for me it's a no-brainer, you know. Prove me wrong, but a doubling population needs to eat, you know, and we can't produce more wheat and rice. You know? Yeah. How much rice can we eat, you know, or how much beef? You know, rice is actually perfect. It's just that we need to diversify. I think it's about diversification. You know?
Yeah, actually, we had another question from the audience. Are your products only available in Nigeria or in any other African countries too?
Yeah, so yeah, we got a lot of hype now, and we are selling in some neighboring countries, Benin, and we need to have that channel stronger now. So Ghana, Kenya is on top of the list. I think it will still take a few more months because the whole distribution chain got messed up. We are, one thing I got surprised was when I received inquiries from the diaspora, you know, UK and America. I never really bothered because there are so many plant-based companies there, but I think it makes perfect sense that the African diaspora, we have our own kind of recipes. So if we have a meat substitute that work for that, perfect. So give us a little bit more time. If you have somebody that comes by in Nigeria and wants to pick up the goods, perfect. And of course, with couriers, but to make it also affordable for everybody, we need to establish, yeah, and Africa is huge, you know, over 50 countries. I mean, before you have a distribution ship everywhere, it's those are the challenges, you know. Whoever cracks the distribution in Africa, it's that's huge. You know?
That more popularity from my side.
Yeah.
Okay. How about now? A little better? Yeah. Cool. Do you feel that the hype that is surrounding VeggieVictory right now and all of the success that you're getting, that's kind of inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs to produce plant-based food in Africa?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm confident that, I mean, you need to start putting up a light, you know, that will inspire others. And I hear already things people are thinking about that protein problem, which is, I mean, you can't deny it anymore. So they're going into the direction of insect protein. And again, wherever the protein is coming from, hopefully not so much from these mammals, but hopefully all plant-based protein. But there are opportunities. So even if it's not only about being compassionate, but also as a business, it's a business idea, you know. And the best way to convince people is if you can give them an opportunity, you know. So I think we are building an industry which itself can employ a lot of people. So if somebody wants to reach out, if you are in a country in Africa or anywhere, and you think that product could work, you know, definitely reach out, and we can set up something. You know, it's a very transformational thing what we are doing. You know, it's not only the food aspect; it's so much. It's the environment. You know, socioeconomic things. The herds. I mean, everything comes into play here.
So on that note, the interesting question asked by one of our audience members wants to know whether dairy consumption is increasing in Nigeria, because I mean, you know, dairy is quite integral to the Indian diet, for example. But Do you see more dairy consumption, or is that sort of a certain standard amount, and you don't see any increase or decrease in it?
I have no data about that. I mean, basically everything is increasing, because if your population is doubling in 20 years, I mean, even if per head people are reducing, overall the consumption rises. But definitely dairy is still seeing the message that it's nutritionist, and so I wouldn't be surprised, you know.
But it's not a part of the traditional Nigerian diet. I mean, dairy milk is not, or is it?
Yeah, again, you know, I think it's the amount, you know, that suddenly you can buy your powdered milk in 10-cent sachets, you know, that, I mean, it's if you have your cow in your backyard and you're milking it once a day or whatever, it's different than if the whole industry gets factorized, you know. So yeah, I guess it's similar like in India, you know, this connection between natural production and then this the factory farming, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised. People are eating instant noodles now that they haven't touched 30 years ago, you know. It's crazy that there were no instant noodles. They didn't know that, and now it's like a staple food, you know. Wheat-based, it's fine because it's actually a vegetarian product, you know, but talking in terms of nutrition, you know, so what I see is definitely an increase in, we see plant-based milks, you know, so people are thinking about tiger nut milk, another superfood, tiger nut, amazing, you know. The issue is that it's not yet so industrialized, it's not scaled that we can really make an impact, you know. If you find soy milk now and tiger nut milk and then imported milks, but it's not yet a mainstream mass product.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. So we're coming.
Sorry, Lave.
No, I said we're coming close to the 45-minute time mark, so I just wanted to, Karthik, if you had any questions.
Yeah, I was actually wanted to dive a little bit more into the restaurant and what kind of menu it is and what's available. I mean, I know you spoke about the stew, etc., but if I came there, what could I eat apart from the stew? Oh
yeah, great question. So, so we are very proud to offer a typical Nigerian meal menu. So if you will eat everything that people eat, you know. We have our different stews, you know, bitter leaf, eforiro, egusi, and it's very important for us that we're not importing some stuff, you know, some fancy meals, but really down to earth food, you know, and where we have to veganize it, we veganize it. And what's also important, we don't use any seasoning cubes. We're trying to be very natural, you know, and then we use, of course, our veggie chunks, you know, for the meat, but we also have mushrooms and tofu. Then we have a few varieties from Western, you know, like burgers and soy dogs. So we call it veggie burger, veggie soy dog. We have a veganized shawarma, you know, and also 1 or 2 meals curries, you know, because Indian population is here. And what people are really always amazed is like like the national dish, it's like a barbecue. We call it suya, you know, it's a grilled barbecue meat. And even that, it's there, you know. Normally the perception is vegetarian restaurants, vegan restaurants, only salads, but we are really for everybody, and it's not expensive because we don't want it to be an elite thing, you know, but really accessible. That's very important for us, that it's meant for everybody, because only that way you can have impact.
And so just on that note, you're obviously targeting maybe the bottom of the pyramid or middle of the pyramid consumers, is it?
Well, the restaurant, of course, the restaurant has its price points, and you can eat cheaper food, you know, if right. But we are really more on the low side compared to the mid-range restaurants, and then the product is affordable for for the bottom of the pyramid. It's cheaper than meat, you know.
Okay.
I always tell people, if the same amount of meat, if you want to have it in your stew, in your pot of stew, you would need to spend double the amount if you go with beef or chicken, you know. So that's important, very different than the premium products in the Western world, that they're often more expensive than meat, you know. So we want to go a different way, that it's affordable for everybody, you know.
Wow, that's a very interesting sort of observation and price point. So you are definitely actually 50% more cheaper than meat.
Yes. However, marketing-wise, it's you know, again, and you guys are marketing experts. You don't win people only by price. It needs to be aspirational, you know. We don't want to be the poor man's meat, you know. And we have a premium line. If you want to spend money on that, we can give it to you, you know, because we are our meat is better anyway, you know. But it's deliberately not an elite product, you know, if I can choose that word, you know. We really want to have everybody on board, you know, give everybody the chance.
Yeah, it's interesting, Hakeem, that you mentioned that, because Lavi, I think when we had Varun from Good Food Institute, one of the things that he said for mass consumption and adoption is that we always have to put an emerging market lens on it if we want to reach everyone. And I think that's what you're doing, Hakeem, very successfully.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's the only way if you make impact. I mean, if I find my niche, but I only reach the 1% vegans, I heard that number, or 4% vegetarians, we're not making an impact, you know. The common bus driver or secretary should choose this product. And I'm always happy if I have that feedback that, oh, since I found your veggie chunks, I'm only eating that because it even saves me money, you know, and that's not even factoring in the medical bills, you know, because that meat makes you can make you sick, you know.
Yeah, it's true. So we're at the sort of the 45-minute mark, Hakeem. I mean,
yeah,
it's been an enthralling discussion. I must say, I've learned a ton about your mission, and I mean, a true. I think I used the word crusader, and I think definitely I can see the passion and the energy that you bring as a pioneer. I'm a true pioneer in this area. So you know, from our perspective, I mean, I hope more Hakeem Jimos show up, or the female versions, and really take on this plant-based food to new heights in Africa. And anything that we can do to help by making some connects for you from people that we may know, I'm happy to do. Keep us posted and on your progress and on your product line as well. So I understood that you have a premium line and sort of a lower to mid-range as well. Are you expanding what's available other than the veggie chunks? Are you thinking of other products as well, in addition to maybe?
Definitely. So more locally sourced things. There's so much, you know, like also we need to think about kind of fish replacement, you know, which is also huge here in Africa. So I mean, that's what I love about this vegan world, you know. Options are endless, you know, and you really have creativity. And I would love to work more with other countries in global south, you know. I just saw in a WhatsApp message, somebody wants to import it to India, and I said, goodness, you know, but let's see, you know. Nigeria market is huge enough, you know, so let's tackle that, that's for sure, you know, and other African markets. But then, yeah, we still have a lot of work to do to grab that from the meat industry. Huh?
Right. So one parting question for me: has the pandemic changed things for you, better or for worse?
Yeah, good question again. I think it has really shown everybody that your health is extremely critical, you know, and if they haven't connected the dots before, it's like now almost everybody understands that they need to work on their personal health, and then they can't ignore that plant-based diet question. So Of course, we were affected with supply chain and this and that, but the awareness, I think, totally plays into our hands. I think you will hear a lot from us in the next couple of months. So I don't know globally what it means for the plant. I mean, I guess we are growing, you know, but I think by now you need to be healthy, you know, and well, going on the right diet is the best choice, you know.
Yeah.
Well said.
For sure.
So on that note, Hakeem, thank you again for joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Pandemic Punditry, you know, you are first speaker from Africa. So we're pleased to have you on debut for us.
Yeah, Kati, Lavi, thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thank you, Hakeem. I will send you some recipes of jackfruit and breadfruit and see if I can find you a supplier.
Fantastic.
All right,
Okay.
Hakeem. Thanks again.
Hey,
Thanks, Hakeem.
All the very best.
Anyone who wants to reach out to me, and no problem. Huh?
Yes.
Definitely. We'll post your email address. Thank you, Hakeem.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.